Again, Greer, Sisson, most of you know me in here, and we're going to do a presentation on registered apprenticeship. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, not again. I think you're going to learn some new things. Are you going to flip?
I'm going to drive.
And Lori Adams is actually going to be presenting with me. So some of the things will bounce back and forth with each other because there's a lot of things that's going on in the state that I really think that the board needs to be aware of. And there's things that we need to be doing in the state that I think we'll go into discussion on what that is. Okay. I'm going to have to stand here because I don't want to. And so the first thing, I thought I put this slide in here because registered apprenticeship, that's really our objectives. And when you look at that as far as build the capacity of the nation's workforce is what it said. And I just stuck an Iowa in there because I figured, well, that's our capacity too. Develop quality, high-skilled workers to meet the needs of industries and respond to the needs of increasing competitive economy. Does that sound like Iowa's objectives and goals to people that are in here? So our goals and our objectives aren't any different than what the state goals and objectives are, to get people back to work, build a skilled workforce, and have a productive economy. I'll have to make a signal or something. And I'm a walker and talker, so we're going to have problems there. I'm going to be all over. So the big question, what is registered apprenticeship? Now, I'm not going to let you guys off the hook. I never do when I do presentations. Who thinks they know what, who thinks they can answer this question? By show of hands. Even though you're reading. No one?
Come on, lady.
Honestly,
we're all chicken to tell you.
Who can answer this question?
Well,
What is registered apprenticeship? Really, honestly, people in this room don't know anything about registered apprenticeship. I really, and I know you can. You're going to I'm going to ask you what it is. So what does that mean? Well, if that's the case, I'm going to go really, really, really slow on the slides. If you think you know, I'll speed it up a little bit. So go ahead, Laurie. And I do have these started. So sum it up, it's a job, it's a career. This is really how registered apprenticeship differs from any other kind of job training program or internship program. Day one, people who get into a registered apprenticeship program have a job, have a career. They are put to work immediately. It's on-the-job learning. 90% of registered apprenticeship, the training that gets done in the actual workplace where the person is employed. The employer is training them how to use the equipment. They're training them how to tend to patients, depending on the occupation. But 90% of that on-the-job learning is done on the job. It's not in a sterile environment. It is at that workplace. It's an education. Did everybody know this part of registered apprenticeship? Registered apprenticeship provides, must provide, by federal regulation, related training instruction. So in addition to on-the-job learning, any employer who has a registered apprenticeship program must also have an education component built into that registered apprenticeship program. So, of course, we like to say it's the best of both worlds. I want to show a slide here, and probably most people know this. Education with experience, the learning curve, based on a registered apprenticeship model from somebody who does education and then experience. So you can see how that curve, and obviously that makes sense. All of us who have jobs, no matter how well we're educated in that particular job, it's not until we get on that job that we actually start really learning that job. So you can see how the quicker the growth is in years of experience based on an apprenticeship model. And it's a certification. Everyone who completes a registered apprenticeship program will receive a certification of apprenticeship signed by the Secretary of Labor and where they've gone through their apprenticeship program at. I did bring some examples, but they look a lot nicer. And they will have their name on it. The certified belongs to Greer, Sisson, and the name of the employer or the apprenticeship program, and then their occupation. So this is their 4-year degree. Sometimes it takes them a year, sometimes it takes 5 years, depending on occupation. But that's what that is. That is their skill diploma. And so we're really proud of that. That is something that people in apprenticeship program have worked very hard to get. Okay.
One of the things, can I jump in?
Sure.
One of the things that's happened in some of the programs that Greer has put together in Iowa is we actually have situations where people can earn their certificate of apprenticeship. They can earn a college associate's degree and a high school credential all at the same time. You want to kind of mention how that works?
Actually, it's in here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We do this like we know this so well.
We know this so much that
we've been asked to present it all different places. So, this is a new slide though. It's cost effective, and I know everybody should be going ding 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 because that's what we hear all the time now is that the states are broke, the federal government's broke, everybody's broke. So how can apprenticeship be cost effective? Actually, apprenticeship spends less money as far as federal than any other kind of workforce program or any kind of other job training program. Apprenticeship gets most of its money because the sponsors, who we call, that's the employers or the organizations, they're the ones who are putting in the money to run that apprenticeship program. We'd like to see more help for that, but that's why it's such a cost-effective program. So how is it cost-effective to the employers? Because when an employer goes out to try to hire a tool and die maker at $24 an hour and can't find one, or he gets somebody in who thinks they're a tool and die maker, and he still has to train them, he's still going to be paying $24 an hour. In this case, when an employer hires an apprentice and teaches them that skill or occupation, an apprentice normally starts about 50% of what that skilled worker would make. So I always say it's cost effective too because I encourage employers to pay for that training, the related training instruction. And if you take $12.50 times 2,000 hours, which is a year, based on how much you're going to pay in the related training instruction, not only you're going to get a certified skilled employee at the end of that training, you've just saved a lot of money. Okay, so it's cost effective to the state, it's cost effective to the federal government, and it's cost effective to the employer. And what about the employee, who the apprentice? It's very cost effective to them because they're getting a paycheck at no cost to them in their training. It's my favorite slide. It's registered apprenticeship is a cost-effective, time-tested, results-oriented training and education strategy that puts people to work immediately. And I feel like I could sit down now, like done. There's nothing else to say, but that is honestly what a registered apprenticeship is. It's short, it's simple. That's the nutshell of the entire program of what registered apprenticeship is. Some basics about apprenticeship, and I'll go through these pretty quick for people who are not sure. Programs usually last between 1 to 5 years based on occupation. They involve a minimum of 144 hours of related training instruction, and we're going to talk more about how to get into related training instruction and things that you do. Starting age of 16, how many people knew that? In here, sideboard, you're not allowed to. And the apprenticeship sponsors. Starting age of 16. So there is a lot of opportunity for youth-type programs going through registered apprenticeship. And registered apprenticeships allow credit for previous experience. And the reason I put this on here is because a lot of employers ask me that when they start registered apprenticeship programs. Well, what about so-and-so? He's been working here. They allow for credit for previous experience. Our program is built by industry. It is for industry and is extremely flexible to meet industry needs. And that's another thing that differs about registered apprenticeship to a lot of programs that you see.
Greer, when you talk about 144 hours, I assume you're talking about clock hours?
Yes, not credit hours, clock hours. And we do partner with community college to convert his credit hours to clock hours.
124, that's something.
A year. A year.
Instruction.
Yes, related technical instruction. That's the
That's
booklet. That's classroom work. Again, apprenticeship is based on-the-job learning is where the most focus is because you're going to have to work on the job to get paid, no matter how you get that instruction, right? So that's where the focus is placed, where the emphasis is for the employer. Apprenticeship programs may be developed in over 1,000 occupations, and that number continues to grow. Who can sponsor a registered apprenticeship program? Employers small and large. And we in Iowa have employers that range from 2 employees to hundreds of employees. Here is the list of all of the sponsors in Iowa who have registered apprenticeship programs. I'll be more than happy to send this around. And these are the ones that are registered. So I just want to make a point on that. There's about 500 employers on that list. But registered apprenticeship actually works with about, probably a little bit more than 2,000 employers, because we also have a lot of organizations, our labor union organizations, who have registered apprenticeship program, but then they may have 10 to 15 contractors who work for them. We have a chef program run through Eastern Iowa Community College who has over 100 employers under that particular program. So those 500 who are actually registered, who own the program, but many, many more employers who participate. I think I said all that. The ones with the asterisks are new, that we're getting to get to feel and work with. Community colleges, workforce development centers, and community and faith-based organizations. The reason I put the asterisk there is because those particular, to have an apprenticeship program, you have to have an employer. You have to be able to provide on-the-job learning and have a related training instruction. Those particular organizations would develop standards of apprenticeship with company participation agreements so that companies can join in and participate under the standard. Traditional occupations. Is everybody familiar with all these occupations when you think about registered apprenticeship? Probably, yeah. Unfortunately, that's usually only the occupations that people think about. So they kind of only want to think about apprenticeship when they're thinking about a bricklayer or a carpenter or cement mason. But apprenticeship is in every one of the high growth areas. And you see we have healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, hospitality, geospatial, aerospace, transportation, and finance. These are just industries. Now, of course, like I said, we have over 1,000 occupations that someone can get into a registered apprenticeship program. But we can't just keep thinking the same way. We have to be able to realize that with that many occupations, I find it hard pressed with anybody in Iowa, with our employers, not to be able to find an apprenticeship occupation that matches their skill sets that they couldn't do through registered apprenticeship.
Greer, did stained glass art get registered?
I have this picture of it.
Okay, that's when in Iowa, when we started partnering with this, there is a stained glass art school in Spencer, and they have registered apprenticeships in the stained glass art. And this picture is actually great.
And we did have, and Lori's going to talk to you about some of the things we're doing on Iowa, so I don't want to go too far ahead on that. But we did have someone who asked for that occupation, and we were able to say, yeah, there's a program for that. Our partners and participants, as you can see, just about everybody in the state. Community-based, faith-based organizations, we work a lot with the veterans. Economic development is our partner, and obviously workforce development is a huge partner. And our biggest partners, and I don't want to say our most important partners, but obviously is our business employers and industry associations, because they're the ones who actually provide the registered apprenticeship programs. Labor management. Okay, some of the benefits for that, it opens up doors to networking, enhanced retention, which is a real big problem. One of the problems that we hear is that, well, even if we hire an employee, they're here for a little while. Our biggest cost is through HR because it's like a revolving door. We have statistics that show how registered apprenticeship helps out with retention and people staying. And here is one of the ones that I think is wonderful, that they're customizable to match the employer's needs. And an apprenticeship program, from the day I meet the employer to the day a registered apprenticeship program he's operating one, can happen in 2 to 3 weeks. And I have 2 people on my staff. So I find that pretty impressive, and the employers are very happy about that. Very short process. Some of the statistics that this is what actual employers say. 97% of our sponsors registered programs said they would recommend the programs to others. 80% cited the greatest benefit that it helped meet the demand of skilled workers. Who remembers a couple of years ago we were all saying we were going to have a skilled workers shortage? I helped work on that. And now we're saying we got a lot of people who need work, but they still need their skills. And I really am happy about this. And I think everybody ought to focus on that, especially when we look at job training dollars and how much money we're spending on training. Is that 44% of our sponsors said their completion rate is between 90 and 100%. 21% indicated between 70 and 89%. So even if we have an overall completion rate of 89%, that is pretty high. In Iowa, we have a completion rate of 93%, which I'm very proud of. Very high completion rate in Iowa. Okay, some of the benefits for the job seekers. I'll just skip right to the red. The average starting wage for apprentices in Iowa is $13.02. The average completion wage is $23.95, which is higher than the state average for an employee. But I have other numbers that I want to wow you with and show you what all the good things that Iowa is doing. In 2009, Iowa registered 127 new businesses for new apprenticeship programs, new sponsors. We registered 2,095 new employees, which are new apprentices. 2,095, with a staff in 2009 of myself and one other person. Okay, so I want all this to sink in. The only other state that beat Iowa in the entire nation was New Jersey. They registered 154. But they only registered 1,537 new employees, new apprentices. That's pretty impressive. Not that it was a fluke. 2010, Iowa registered 68 programs. We went down that year. But we registered 2,277 people were employed in skilled training through registered apprenticeship. The only other state that beat us in the entire nation was New Jersey. They registered 180 that year, but they only employed 1,551. Okay. I don't have, because our fiscal year just ends the end of this month, so I don't have a nice little chart with all the states to compare. But I can tell you this, Iowa is doing extremely well. This year, this economy, and also last year's economy, so far 82 new employers or registered apprenticeship programs have been added, and we added 2,518 people have been employed through the registered apprenticeship system. Pretty impressive, considering the very small staff. And what's really impressive is why is Iowa beating the nation other than New Jersey, which we won't talk about. And so why is that happening? Because we get it. We get it here in Iowa, and we have fantastic partners that go around and talk about registered apprenticeship program. But we got a lot that we could be doing. And imagine all the things we could be doing if more than 3 people, there's a staff working with 3 people. And that's when we're going to start talking about the integration part, but I'm going to jump ahead. Okay, go ahead. Here's some of the graduate numbers as far as where people get the salaries. This is a national registered apprenticeship opposed to no high school, associate's degree, and bachelor's degree. There is a report that I did send you guys. It's called the Working Family Core Project, which I find outstanding, and I could do an entire presentation just on this. I wanted to read something to you, which I think you'll find very interesting. Apprenticeship produces larger earnings bump. After accounting for total training costs, apprenticeship produces a positive earning gain of $269,000 over a lifetime, much higher than $96,000 to $123,000 projected for community college students, and about $40,000 per trainee in Workforce Investment Act programs. I find that extremely impressive. Okay. You guys have any questions?
What's the average student loan debt for apprentices?
None, zero. So did everybody hear Ken's? Zero, because the employer pays for that. The employer pays. We only have a handful of programs. Actually, we have about 38 programs in the state of Iowa where the apprentices pay for the cost of their training. The rest of the employers pay for the cost. We don't have anything in our regulation that mandates the employer to pay. Gee.
How do you make the selections when people apply? How do you choose them?
I don't. The employers do. This is a registered apprenticeship program is you're employed first. That's the number one thing. So apprentices go through, when they apply for registered apprenticeship, even though they're applying for the registered apprenticeship, selection procedures, hiring is all done by the employer. That's the good thing about registered apprenticeship. It goes back to where the work is being done. It goes back to the employer, or in case of like our union organizations, they have a selection committee where they'll interview the applicants who become apprentices, and then they go out and work out on the job. So it's all done at the program level. And when I say program, I don't want you to think that this is something separate that's running. When I say program, I'm talking about the workplace, or the organization place, where then it goes out to the workplace. Did I answer that?
Yeah, that does. My kind of a follow-up. How do you market this program? Where do you go to high schools? Do you go to what organizations do you go to market this?
That list that I had,
Yeah.
we go to all of them. Except we've had a very limited, the federal government has had a very limited travel budget. That's one of the reasons that I'm doing this presentation to the board, because, many hands make little work. And I think if we can have those kind of success numbers with just the things that we've started with partnering with workforce development, things like that, imagine what we could have if we got all the arbors involved. Imagine what we could have if we got community-based, faith-based really involved in apprenticeship. Imagine what could happen if we got K through 12 really involved in registered apprenticeship programs. And so then that takes a collective effort, because there's only just so much that one office could even do. Even if it was an office as big as workforce development, it still would take all of those partners to see that momentum. Senator Burke?
With the economic slump that we've been in, what areas are you seeing growing in terms of industry, or can you share with us, you've created 2,000 plus jobs, where are the growth areas?
Yeah, we're picking up more advanced manufacturing. I was just in Burlington, and I went with the director and Lori and Mike, and we were up talking to manufacturing. So we're starting to pick up more manufacturing. Burlington was another area that we were just meeting with workforce, which I want to talk to everyone about. Our biggest employer, though, this year was in trucking. Trucking.
Yeah.
200,
Over the road.
I'm sorry, 500 and some jobs.
Good.
And they all go through the registered apprenticeship. And the company that's registered is TMC. So I want to put a plug in for them, because they're our only registered apprenticeship program in trucking.
Usually that's one of our first indicators in an economy. If it goes down, then we know the economy is headed that way, or if it starts to increase over the road, is usually the indicator of
So
what's
this
to
is a
come.
good, very good thing.
Yeah.
Good. Great, thank you.
And Greer, I had done some reading where I saw that there had been some changes in healthcare. In other words, healthcare field has been on the uptick. Can you speak to that?
Yes, not in Iowa, unfortunately, for registered apprenticeship, and that's where I could use everybody's help in this room. Registered apprenticeship in healthcare has been extremely high, and I've been trying to get into healthcare since I was an apprenticeship rep down in Bettendorf before it became even a high growth, before we even started identifying high growth. A lot of the problems that we have, Ed, is that people have so many myths and misconceptions of what registered apprenticeship is, or this is the way we've always done it theory, and it's hard to break that. Well, we've never trained apprenticeship for seniors. We've never trained in x-ray techs. Did everybody get in their packet? Diane, thank you too. Thanks. I send her so much crap and stuff on a daily basis. She's just a sweetheart. Did everybody get this list of apprenticeable occupations? Okay, I'm going to send this around, but I will be more than happy so that everybody can get that, because I think you really, really need to see. And when Lori goes and tells the stuff online, it's accessible. You can access it now as well.
I have a point of clarification. You had mentioned earlier that if 2,000 apprenticeship jobs have been added. Those aren't new jobs. Those are apprentices those are new apprentices in an industry or a workplace that is just registered programming and now they're not new hires.
No, those are new hires for us. Those are new hires. When I said we registered 88 new programs, 2,500 new apprentices, new hires were registered. And so those, when we put them in, they're new hires for us. And you're saying that somebody may have already got
They
credit.
could have a job. They could have a job in an industry. Let's say it's a winter, and an employer said they'd like to have an apprenticeship program.
If they've already started, yeah. Okay.
So I mean, is there a misconception that it's 2,000 new jobs or just 2,000 new registered apprentices?
Okay, that's a good point. That is a
thought
good.
that.
Well, that is a good point. And most of those are new jobs, but because I mentioned about giving credit, there will be some employers who have hired someone and they started an apprenticeship program, and then they say, I want to put them in. That's very good. So the 2,500 are all new apprentices, and from that, probably about 500 have credit, so 2,000 are actually off-the-street hires, where 500 have gotten hired with that company, and now have gotten into a registered apprenticeship program and we put it in. So, okay.
Greer? I have a question too.
Okay.
You mentioned that there were only 36 programs that now charge the student. Can you tell me a little bit more? Are those the old traditional?
They're not old traditional, they just choose to do that. Some programs we
They
have.
charge, but then do they?
Some reimburse back to the apprentice after they graduate. We have nothing in our regulation. This is a point too where workforce can really get involved too as well, because and I am so bad about jumping ahead, so I'm trying to be so careful because I know I'm going to get ahead. There's eligible training providers and things like that that could get, hopefully money for OJT or school or come with OJT dollars, because it is. When you look at that as far as an apprentice who's making $12.50 an hour, which isn't bad for starting wage, and you're going to go up. But if they have a family or something, and then if they have to pay for their schooling, it gets expensive.
So they pay for the schooling, but then they still get hired as an apprentice, so they are getting
A
income.
paycheck.
Okay.
Absolutely. They're definitely getting a paycheck.
You've mentioned, or we talked about healthcare being a very popular item outside of Iowa. Have we thought about bringing the healthcare people, let's say in Des Moines, and have some representatives from the other states where it's been successful?
I would love to do that. I don't have the budget to do it. You know who's a big healthcare? Allied. Allied has a huge healthcare. Michigan is running a huge healthcare program. They're our neighbors, but we don't have the budget to do that. I would love to do that. When we went to the Heartland, we had, I don't know if you were in, because there's so many breakout sessions, but Lori and I presented at the Heartland year before last. And healthcare, and that's all they talked about was their registered apprenticeship program. Comfort Keepers for home health care specialists just has a huge, and they're a national program. We have Comfort Keepers in the state of Iowa.
So when you say you don't have the dollars for that,
Well, if you wanted to bring in people, they're probably going to want to get put up somewhere and some.
well, I know we've done it before, and they volunteer to come.
Okay, well, we could try that, but usually, that's the only reason is because for me to do and ask for that, I have to be prepared to say, this is, here's what we're doing.
We might buy them a lunch or pay for their mileage or something.
And Allied might do it for free, because they go around, they're at the Heartland presenting on registered apprenticeship.
In that healthcare, another idea, to take on your idea, Rod, is that Are you interconnected with the governor's new plan to be the healthiest state in Iowa?
No.
See, we could connect you into that whole process, which obviously would then get you connected with a lot of healthcare. I'd be happy to do that.
Right.
With you.
Because I meet with, you know, the Iowa Caregivers Association,
Right,
things like that.
right.
A lot of times their biggest thing, and they even met with workforce development several years along with apprenticeship. Their biggest thing is because those jobs start at a low wage, and you have to have an increasing salary as your skills increase, that everybody wants money,
Yeah.
and we don't have any money. There are grants that come out occasionally, but then that's grant dependent. Because we did have 4 comfort keepers registered in Iowa, but then when the grant money ended, so did that. You know, so we got to find something that's sustainable, and that is what happens when you have. They're very important career fields. I mean, I have 4
But if
kids.
you have an area or a company that serves many states, they could already be registered in apprenticeship in another state, and that would still follow into our state.
Oh,
So-
absolutely.
So the curriculum and all that would still be developed. It'd just be a matter of getting our state on board. with
You
that
know
stuff.
what, Teresa, I'm glad you brought that up. And I brought a set of like example standards. Every 1,000 or so occupations we have, the curriculum is already, there's already an outline of the
Correct.
curriculum,
Right.
there's already an outline of the OJT. I always stress it to workforce development or OJT people, just call me. We have the occupation, we can show you, give you a copy of
Right.
what the industry is saying it takes. Okay, veterans. Obviously, I put this slide separate because it's not that we don't help everybody, but veterans are near and dear to my heart. We do a lot of work with veterans. One thing that you have, everybody should know that if it's a registered apprenticeship program, every GI who has a GI Bill can get their benefits. Even under the post 9/11 GI Bill, which at first it didn't include registered apprenticeship, but it does now. But the reason that TMC, who I partnered with TMC through Tom Beasley, the state approving agency, and the reason TMC wanted so much to have our apprenticeship program is because I worked on the one at Warner in Omaha, who started the first trucking program, and the reason they wanted one is because they are trying to attract veterans. So therefore, they can say, here's your salary, you can keep all of your GI benefits, which is a real benefit for the veteran, and we're still going to pay for your education. So they charge them nothing. So I think that, and also we have the helmets or hard hats program, and so it's a wonderful thing. The Air National Guard actually has a registered apprenticeship program in the state of Iowa as well, so that we can make sure that the veterans who are going through their Air Force training is receiving dual credit through their apprenticeship program. So it's another benefit to the veterans. So we really do try to take care of our veterans, obviously, and make sure that if I had nothing to do with the GI Bill, that was federal, but I'm sure happy that he sees that it includes registered apprenticeship. Okay.
What Greer's not telling you is that she's a veteran herself.
I just wanted to
20-year veteran of the United States Air Force, as an air traffic controller, and Greer, I thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Pleasure. And it was an honor. And so, okay, benefits for economic growth. Oh, I'm sorry, Debbie's not here, but I think this is really important because, and even when I met with Teresa the first time, one of the first things she says, and I went, oh my goodness, you get it. Apprenticeship is an economic program, economic development program, for businesses to be able to start up a training program within 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and be able to have that. But it's also more when you look at the return on investment. Right here, return $50 in federal and state tax revenues for every $1 public dollar invested. I think if ding, 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 there's another one I always feel like I can sit down now because I've said that. So think about it. You take all the people who are in job training programs, all the people who want to try to get a job, and put them in a job and train them, they're automatically going to be giving back to our state, our communities, and their towns because the public investment are going into that. So, do you want to do the rest of this? Benefits for workforce investment and our other partners, and you can reach family sustaining salaries, aligned with workforce system priorities, which we're going to talk about, certifications and credentials, and obviously the number one that you hear a lot associated with registered apprenticeship is it's an earn as you learn program. Okay, we're going to get into some good stuff now. Expanding registered apprenticeship integrated with workforce system. So why am I here always talking to you guys about workforce? Is because we had, you can change this to the next one. Back in 2007, we had a TEAGLE, which was a training and appointments guidance letter that came out that really started pushing the integration with workforce and the public workforce system and the registered apprenticeship program. Iowa has done some really leaps and bound things over other states. Obviously, when it comes to registering programs, our state, I don't know, so you just number 2 real count, New Jersey, it's number 1 in this region. And we do register a lot of apprentices or have apprentices, new apprentices put into the program. But this is one of the big things that we started with registered apprenticeships. And Lori's going to come in and talk to you about some of the state things, and then I'm going to echo in on some of the things that we are actually doing, and I wanted to talk to you about it. Why does this make sense? Because when I read to you at the beginning what our objectives are, and as workforce development board members and people who are workforce or economic development, here's a little chart that shows how do our goals and what we are trying to accomplish differ than what we are all sitting around here having meetings and going out to our communities and our Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that. We're doing the same exact thing. So our goals on registered apprenticeship in the workforce system, they align perfectly. We're trying to get to the same thing. So now Lori's going to talk to you about integration with workforce and apprenticeship in the state of Iowa. Then I have some more things I'd like to share with you as we go through the integration process.
And you're not going to sit down, you're going to stay right there. I'm going to
stay there.
To me, it seemed like a reasonable and almost I hate to use the phrase no-brainer, but knowing what Greer was trying to do and that we were trying to get people back to work and focusing on employment rather than unemployment and the opportunities that exist for earning and learning, and considering I started this agency working with low-income individuals in the Promised Jobs program, so I was always trying to find a way to help people get back to work. Once I met Greer, it seemed like a logical opportunity to partner and to promote her program at the same time and link it up within our agency, because I just quickly discovered that a lot of people within our own agency were not familiar with what Greer was doing. So she and I have worked together for several years now at linking up what she does with what we do and promoting the opportunities available through registered apprenticeship. To me, that seemed a logical approach and shouldn't be unique at all. I'm very wrong when I say that it is to say that, because we have discovered that Iowa is one of the very few states that has a partnership between workforce development and the Office of Apprenticeship. Unique enough that Greer and I have been called to present at regional and national conferences about how we did this. How did we partner? And people have asked me, well, how did you get this started? Picked up the phone, talked to her, met at a conference, and shared ideas. When we presented at the Heartland Conference 2 years ago in Chicago, the room was packed. It was a room this size and it was packed. And one of the questions we were asked was, you know, how did you get this started? And I said, do you know in your state who is your director of apprenticeship? They didn't know. So the whole thing starts with getting to know who your partners are and finding out what they can offer and what you can offer in return. When Greer says she has no budget, she is not kidding. The woman cannot go anywhere. We took her along to Dyersville, but only because she rode with me. There was no budget for her to drive, so she went along with us. But some of the stuff we've done, and I'm going to point out the very bottom of the screen where it says on workforce.org apprenticeship. Iowa was the first state to have an apprenticeship section on our website. Nobody else did that. Other states have copied us, and when we go in and look at those other states, they look remarkably like ours, as in they cut and pasted. So we have, you know, and some of these things to me, again, seem rather ordinary, this is the way, it should be the way you do business, but it is not true. We've partnered a lot through the Workforce Investment Act, and I'm not going to try and pretend that I know all about WIA, but apprenticeship is an allowable training opportunity through the Workforce Investment Act, and there's on-the-job training, there's customized training modules, there's the 260F funds that are available that can be used. So that's a funding source available within WIA. And then again, there's operational supports that we provide, sharing staff and resources, promoting these opportunities as a joint venture. And the big one to me is the last one there, dissemination and promotion of registered apprenticeship information. That's been my role in our partnership, is trying to get the word out about the opportunities that exist in registered apprenticeship so that Greer can go out and register those opportunities and make sure that we have employers out there that have the work sites, and then we're trying to find the workers to match up with that to meet the employer's needs for employees, excuse me. Again, some things that Iowa has done that still seems a little crazy to me, but we're the first ones to do this. We were the first state to hold an action clinic in which we invited a lot of employers, public, to find out more about what actually constituted registered apprenticeship. We've promoted this at statewide conferences. This is always an information topic at career fairs. We leverage it with resources, and we promote it through different products. She cited there the Iowa Veterans Benefit book. All of you got a copy of it. This morning I left it on the table. It's this item right here. And there is a section in here on registered apprenticeship. And as Greer mentioned, specific to veterans, they can use their GI benefit, GI Bill rights in this. But again, take a look at this booklet. It'll tell you a lot about other things available to veterans, but that's one we want to make sure veterans are aware of that. And Greer is a member of your board. That was an expanded representation that was not part of the original model to have registered apprenticeship serving on the statewide board. These are some of the linkages that we have with registered apprenticeship. You recognize some of those offices. There's Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, Fort Dodge, and the staff of the Creston office. But we promote registered apprenticeship and link it up with our National Readiness Credential, Ex-Offender Initiative, Proudest Jobs, which is our welfare reform project, Veterans, as we've cited, Wagner Pizer, which is our employment services. We partner with Job Corps, Bulk Rehab. I'm sure David could mention how apprenticeship can be a part of the services that they provide. The Workforce Investment Act. We are now promoting it through our virtual access points, as Ed and I mentioned earlier. It can be part of a layoff aversion project, reemployment services, reemployment eligibility assessments, the Trade Act, and food assistance, employment and training. So these are just some of the programs that we offer at IWD, where we're making sure to promote apprenticeship as another viable alternative to people who are looking to get a job and get back into the workforce. I wonder if this will work. This is our website. Maybe this will link back. And some of you may have seen this before. Again, when we went down this path, good. We have, as I said, we were the first one to do this. And at the time, we thought it was like everybody was getting a website. But if you go in and look at this, this is a link off of our main agency webpage, iowaworkforce.org/apprenticeship. And we have information there for individuals, for sponsors and employers, veterans, links. Opportunities is a job bank for apprentice occupations. There's two places where we look. These are ones that are currently taking applications for. And hopefully it'll come up quickly. Always hold your breath when you want technology to work. With bated breath. Okay, and don't be put off by the dates on here. These are often ongoing opportunities available. So you can see Boilermakers Local 83 in Council Bluffs is looking for apprenticeships. The Carpenters Training Center of the Quad Cities. These are, so if people are looking for opportunities in apprenticeship, they can go to this job bank and look these up and find out more information about how they can contact these particular companies. We've got, I'm gonna not go through this whole website right now, but we have a lot of information on there that Greer's already alluded to that you can go in and look at the list of all the registered occupations, the registered, the employers who are listed. There is places where people can email us for more information.
Lori, if you want to just go back to here very quickly
Sure.
and show the interactive link. We as the Office of Apprenticeship and every regional director of workforce development and Lori and Diane with youth, if it doesn't fall into a category, if you just go to individuals, please, and the sponsors can do the same thing down. And
You want to go?
fill out apprenticeship form to get more information. This goes right to workforce. We are the only state who is doing this. And that way, and the reason that we're doing this is because so that, we realize that, okay, we have 2,500 people who are in a registered apprenticeship program. Even if 500 got credit for previous experience because they were already hired, there's 2,000 new people. And our numbers and workforce numbers, we're not putting those together. This was one of the things so we can integrate our services. This goes right to a regional office, a regional director. We have gotten these as far away as
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. Veterans looking to come back. We probably have, and I don't know for a fact, but I know we probably have at least one of these that we get in almost every state that will say, hey, I'd be interested in moving in Iowa because they have seen application, the thing about registered apprenticeship program, which this is just wonderful. And they put their comments, and if they're a veteran, this way workforce can help them. Then registered apprenticeship, they can get information about registered apprenticeship. I think this is one of our best integrations, and it's so simple. It's just so simple because at the end of the day, we're all about making sure that people who want to get registered apprenticeship programs know about registered apprenticeship. So, and the reason I'm showing this is because it gets so much attention nationally. They talk about this one little integration page, So
And I know it seems so, but it really is a big deal. And the other piece that's a big deal is if you go back and look at the employer piece, we have a similar place where they can ask for information. I think that's this one.
Oh no,
That's not it? Okay.
That's the one right there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But there's a similar one where an employer can ask the request. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Kind of looks like the other one, doesn't it? This one goes to Greer.
I have employers who sent this, and these go directly to me. And so we don't want to leave out any employers or anybody who's interested in registered apprenticeship. The stained glass artist came this way. We do, and I meant to point out that picture that I went right
I don't think we've come to it yet.
No, I passed it under partners.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. And then, but that stained glass artist, this is how they notify. So we have a stained glass artist apprenticeship program in the state of Iowa, and they sent this through this website saying I'm interested. And so,
Okay. But this is part of our education and outreach, is making sure that people are aware of our website and that information. Another place within our agency that we promote apprenticeships is within our Green Jobs initiative, which is iowaworkforce.org New Energy, and that also has a job bank on it, but it also promotes apprenticeships within Green Jobs, and so that's just another place people can get information. Obviously, you heard more about this morning, but we've also linking it on our virtual access point system. This is the screen of the welcome screen when people start using that. And when you go to I am a job seeker, and then it'll give you, then you go one step further, I'm looking for a job, one of the options that they can choose from for more information is Iowa Apprenticeship Initiatives. So it's another place people can find out about what we're doing. I can't believe Greer mentioned this, but we do have, we were on I was on a television program talking about apprenticeship opportunities, and so we are featured on this YouTube channel. So you get to see that. We're listed as an eligible training providers. Greer, do you want to mention more about this, how this works?
Usually with eligible training providers, you guys can talk better on this program. But under the Act, it says here, entities that carry out programs under under the National Apprenticeship Act. So they can be, apprenticeship program sponsors can be eligible automatically. They don't have to jump through all the hoops and do all the bells and whistles. We really need to do a better job in promoting this so that people know that if somebody comes down from workforce, that they are eligible training providers, and make sure that, and you guys are doing a great job. They scrape those programs automatically. If I see, here's a registered apprenticeship list, they automatically put them on there, which is really something wonderful that they do for our apprenticeship sponsors. They don't even have to do anything, do they? You just do it. So that's, and we need to do a better job of making sure that not only employers are aware of that, but that workforce and any kind of programs who are working with eligible training dollars realize that apprenticeship, they're eligible. They're eligible, you know, if you're sending someone over there.
And we put together, and again, Greer's limited budget, and I've managed, I don't know where Carrie disappeared to, but we've worked with our communications department, again, to develop brochures, flyers, posters, trying to get this information out, that mechanism as well as the website. So we're doing everything we can, word of mouth, but the key to the success of this and getting more people involved is making sure that they're aware of it. Greer mentioned a lot of the misconceptions. One that she didn't mention, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but there's a lot of people that thought apprenticeships were only in construction trades, or that they were only affiliated with labor unions, and that's not true. There certainly are, that does happen, but it is not limited to those.
Nationally, it's a 50-50 split. Here in Iowa, about 20% of our programs are union programs, about 80% of our programs are not union programs. We have a very good, and then on the other side, the apprentices, about 80% of our apprentices are in our union programs and 20% are not, because we have a lot of companies that are very small, or small manufacturing companies that only take in one apprentice, opposed to the electricians who may take in 25, 30 at one time. So we have a very nice balance and mix. Our job is to get more and diverse companies into registered apprenticeships so that people start talking about it more. Jude asked about marketing. I'd like to specifically that your office did, LMI, that are just wonderful. This actually made the National Office of Apprenticeship website, that they posted this publication on that website, on our Community of Practice website. And there's a very interesting thing in here. It says all 99 counties in Iowa has a registered apprenticeship program in it, which actually floored the national office. And this thing got warranted to be published. So thank you to LMI. I know Greg asked what LMI was doing before in the meeting, or what was Workforce doing when you had talked about. So I wanted to pass, is this in the packet study?
Both of them are in
Okay,
the packet.
perfect, perfect. So these are some of the things that Workforce labor market is doing. It makes it very easy for us to be able to take these type of things to schools and businesses or other organizations and say, hey, here you go. So this is one thing that we're very appreciative of. And I really do give credit and attribute a lot of these type of things on why Iowa is right below New Jersey in registered apprenticeship for the nation. You know, it's this type of thing. And I still say we have such a long way to go. And we'll talk some more about that.
Obviously, we all know these are our challenges: higher unemployment, low growth. The governor's initiative is we're trying to achieve more economic growth and more jobs. But there's been slow business expansion and some stagnated declining wages. And so these are all things that are making, I believe, apprenticeship can be more of a viable alternative for someone who is wanting to get back to work. We have people who've lost their jobs or trying to get back to work. They need to have a family that they want to support. And the jobs that they have done in the past are no longer available to them because those jobs don't exist anymore, or those jobs have moved somewhere else. And so but they really don't have the time or the ability to go back to school because they have a family to support. And so apprenticeship offers them the opportunity to upskill and earn a living and support their families and stay in their homes, which we all think are good, very important, and make this a very attractive option. I'm sorry again that Debbie isn't here, but we need to look, always work towards economic growth. So the leadership and partnerships are needed more than ever, and aligning our resources is critical. Greer can't travel, but when I can bring her along and she can speak to this, she can do so much more effectively than me.
I just went to Burlington yesterday.
You did, you got to leave town, I'm shocked. But we need to align our resources, and we started doing this a couple of years ago because it just seemed like a common sense thing to do, but it has evolved into it's almost more of it's more than a partnership. We're really truly aligned with similar goals. But we're trying to drive forward in this, but we have to have some focused strategies to help us differentiate to regions. There are different needs in Dyersville when we were up there talking to manufacturers and die cast operations than there are that we're dealing with in the western part of the state that is critically looking for a critical need in welding. So we have to look at some focused strategies to help meet employer needs in different parts of the state. Greer?
Okay, well, I'm hoping that some of this is new for people, and they're learning some new things. We're going to do questions. I just want to talk about a couple of things that I may have overlooked. Registered apprenticeship, we do partner with just about every community college. Just about all the community colleges offer some kind of community college credit for apprenticeship. I was in Burlington, so Southeastern Iowa Community College, up to 18 credit hours. If you come in with one of those certificates, which I will need those back. They're right here. Oh, good. I'm supposed to stamp example on there. And so, up to 18 college credits. So, I know Scott Community, Eastern Iowa Community College, their chef program that Lori talked about. If you go through their chef program, you start at 16. They have ICN cameras that they can actually put into high schools. They work with disadvantaged youth to keep them in high school, start them on a career path as a chef. When they graduate from high school, they finish up their apprenticeship program because unlike associate's degree, it's a 3-year program because they have to work. But they do get their apprenticeship certificate and their associate's degree. How amazing is that? So we're talking about kids that possibly were on the road to dropping out or going to prison, are now completing part of their community college while they're in high school. They're working while they're in high school. They get out, they get their associate's degree. Some of them never dreamed they'd ever have that kind of opportunity. And now they have a skilled certificate, that says, I'm a chef. I'm working as a chef. That's just examples of some of the things we're doing. The program, the Stained Glass Artist, he only takes promised jobs. I think I'm saying promised jobs applicants. So that he's partnering with Workforce Development and the community college to do that. So, and a lot, like I said, a lot of our community colleges are offering credit for that. So that's also a big savings. They have, Kim was asking how much do they come out of debt with, which is 0 for the education, so because they're working and they're paying it off, there is absolutely none. So there's so many things like that that we can link to apprenticeship. So I just wanted to go over a couple more things and I'll be done. And I wanted to read this, and I do hope everybody pulls this out and reads it and looks at it. But it says, more than ever before, it's critical that the United States invest more deeply in education and skills development strategies that are driven by the demands of the labor market and, while doing so, are readily accessible to all labors of the labor force. Fortunately, a tried and true approach already exists. Workers acquire skills and work experiences needed to fill the actual jobs, and that is registered apprenticeship. So it's here, and we're doing a fantastic job, and you guys probably didn't even know it, how well you, as Iowans, are doing with registered apprenticeship and getting registered apprenticeship programs. We just need to start looking at what else and what's the next step. How can we make an Iowa a skilled, certified workforce? We always have all of these surveys about how many people completed high school, important. How many people completed college, that's important. What we don't do is how many certified skilled workers do we have in the state of Iowa so that I can go tell a manufacturing company, please move here. We have the skilled workforce, and if you can't find it, we can have you up and running and creating your own skilled workforce within 2 weeks. We don't market that. We don't tell companies that. We tell them, well, what is your needs and what do you want, and we'll try to do some kind of program and get those skills for you, and hopefully, after we spend our tax dollars to do that, you'll hire them for us. I say, no more. We've got to look at things differently. Who thinks apprenticeship is a jobs training program? After everything you've heard. Anybody? It's not. It's not. That was a trick question. You knew it was coming, that's why nobody would speak. It is jobs that train. That's what apprenticeship is. It's jobs that train, which is totally different from a jobs training program. And so I think that we need to get together as a state workforce board, regional workforce boards for those who say, and seriously have a discussion about what is the state doing for registered apprenticeship. Because we have over 2,000 employers who are doing it and going, well, what about us? What about us? And how can you expand that so that people in Dyersville aren't saying, I can't get people to come work for me. So that it is so synonymous with you will get a job, you'll get your education, and you'll get your training that they start talking about it in high schools. Lynn can tell you, one of the biggest problems we have is high schools won't talk about registered apprenticeship. Why do people go to college? Surely someone knows the answer to that question. You guys are a quiet audience. Huh? Get an education. Is that N?
Because they're told to.
It used to be to get a job.
Used to be
Prepare for your career.
to get a job. It used to be people went to college to get a job. And I say, okay, that's fine. Let's get a job and go to college. Why can't we do both? I know a lot of you have heard me say in high school they put you on tracks. An A track, you're going to college, we're all happy. B track, you're going out to the career field. And then we don't even want to know what the other tracks are. That apprenticeship isn't a different track. It's taking both of those tracks and marrying them together so that you can do it at the same time. And I have that list that's going around that proves that it happens. And I also know that there's enough employers in the state of Iowa who think it's important when we rank right below number one in the region. And we registered, we're having more new apprentices. So, in this packet of things that you have received, which if none of you have received enough stuff about apprenticeship, I don't know what else to give you. There are some DOL recommendations for leveraging WIA support in apprenticeship. I know nobody wants to think about more cost or higher cost or added cost. I'm not asking for that. We're not asking for that. What we're saying is taking a look at some of the costs that we do spend on job training and how can that job training go to jobs that train. That's all I'm asking. That's all I've ever been asking. And there are some very good examples, and there's some things in here that we already do. And then, as well as Iowa is doing with integrating with apprenticeship, we are not doing well in investing in registered apprenticeship compared to other states. And there's also in there that talks about what other states are doing, or things you can do, and it says if it's an investment or not. And a lot of these things, we already have the funds for. We just don't appropriate them to employers, directly to the employers who are doing jobs. For example, we have states who give $2,500 for each apprentice that comes in there. It's a guaranteed job. Lynn's program, for example. You get $2,500 per apprentice. He's going to train them. They're going to get paid. They're going to get benefits. And they're going to get their education and their certification. But we don't do that. We don't do that. We give OJT dollars, or we'll give training dollars, and then we say, go find yourself a job. And if you don't come back, we'll train you again. True? Mm-hmm. That's not, we can't, in my personal opinion, and not all jobs lend themselves to apprenticeship. But we have to really encourage employers, if you're going to take advantage of state, federal dollars, we want something in return because we owe more to Iowans. We owe them a certification and we owe them a job. If we tell them it's job training, we owe them a job. And as a taxpayer, if I'm going to pay for job training, I expect them to get a job. So that's how I feel, and that's my little thing on apprenticeship. Any questions?
I've got one quick one going back to the college credits.
Yes.
I don't know whether you can answer or Steve maybe can for community colleges and so forth, but how broad a coverage do we have of accepting these classes for credit, and is there a cost to get your credits registered at the college wherever they're being accepted.
Let me jump in, Greer.
Sure, go ahead.
I think in our case, we accept up to a certain number of credits that are reflected in the apprenticeship certificate itself. Most of us are going to require a minimum amount of general education coursework to supplement that. In our case, maybe it's 18 credit hours out of a 60-hour certificate. So we would accept everything at no cost from that 18 on up to the 60. Right, and that's going to vary. Every one of those agreements might vary given the apprenticeship program. It might vary a little bit between institutions in terms of how they approach that. We do have some statutory limitations that we have to follow with that. But it's I know that was something that we worked on years ago. I've been a great supporter of apprenticeship programs for a long time, and I was really pleased when we started to get those articulated associate degree programs in place. Because as Greer knows, you go to the high schools and invariably you got a parent that says, well, yeah, it sounds good, but gee whiz, after 4 years they're still not going to have a college degree, even though in the whole scheme of things today, so what? But this was a way of getting past that impediment, if you will, and encourage parents to support the kids, young
I
people.
think generally speaking that our educational system is that way in Iowa. So what you say about your school, I think that's pretty applicable to the system itself.
Yeah.
How about the Regents institutions?
Yeah, they will take them.
They will take them?
I think it depends on the program, as Steve
Yeah.
said.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. So-
But at no cost, you can get it transferred at no cost.
That I'm not sure of.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can because I think I've done it, so.
Yeah, some do charge, but it's very low. I know Eastern Iowa charges $70 to transfer those credits, opposed to, what is the credit hour?
Normally, it's gonna be-
$98.
Oh, it's higher, but fortunately with that, the average
Yeah.
is way over that.
Okay.
Of course,
So let's say $119 a credit, they only charge $7
It's
to
money.
transfer.
Real money.
So, yeah, it's real money, and it's real credits, and so it's one of the few, you can correct me, that offers community college credit, as well as the education certification paycheck on a job learning skills training program that is available here in Iowa.
Yeah,
So
one of the other things we've worked on as well, and we've had our relationship with the HCC would be a good example of that. We have a number of one-year diploma programs in plumbing, HVAC, masonry, carpentry. But in the HVAC and the plumbing side of it, we've had working agreements with those plumbing firms, heating, air conditioning firms, that those they'll accept a certain amount of a classroom component with that one-year diploma program as they transfer into the apprenticeship program. So we're constantly looking for ways of marrying what the community colleges are able to do. And in our case, those programs use our labs in the evening for the apprenticeship programs. We've got credit diploma program going on during the day, and the apprentice programs for the classroom component are using those same labs in the evening for the apprenticeship training components.
Right. And we've really had an expanding of our partnership with the licensing law that was passed, because if you're plumber, HVAC, electrical, that you the grandfathering is over, so those people have to go through a registered apprenticeship program to be able to apply to get their licensing certificate on the license. And so that has been another reason that we've seen such an uptake. Michigan just started a licensing law, copied after 100% after I was there. And so my thing, so why am I presenting, why am I telling you, because besides apprenticeship is so cool, is that, so that one, to make sure that, because you hear me talking about it on the board, that everybody understands there's new members on the board. And also, I really would like to see an honest conversation, bring in sponsors from the union, from business, apprenticeship, legislators, and say, hey, we have this opportunity, we have job training, let's marry those two together, what can we do? And I really do think we can do it. without increasing one single new dollar, because dollars are out there to do it. And I think it would really help businesses. Again, I have a very small staff, but I want to give an example. We do have in the 260F, there is $1 million that the community colleges do distribute out to different apprenticeship programs. Iowa got a national energy grant for almost $6 million. And in that grant, they had to train 1,400 people. I just told you, Iowa right now has almost 6,000 apprentices. And we have that consecutively. So if you want to, if you can feel, and that's just one grant. So if you can feel the difference as far as that investment that employers are making in apprenticeship, opposed to any kind of investment that state or federal is giving them, is really out of whack. If we can do $5 million to train 1,400 people, and we can only do $1 million, and that's only one grant, but we only do $1 million to train consecutively 6,000 people who have jobs and pay taxes every year. We've got an out of balance system, and we just need to work on it.
Do you receive a direct appropriation for the apprenticeship program from either the federal or state government? No. So it's through other programs and
The only
parts of pieces of things?
No, it's through the business and the employers. This is, the industry does it. The organizations, the union programs, small businesses, they're the ones who are footing that bill. It's up to the state then to decide if they're going to appropriate any funds. But other than, unless there's a grant that comes out that will include apprenticeship, like the National Energy Grant, there is none.
Nothing.
The only thing that the federal government pays for apprenticeship is my salary.
Your office, okay. And that's why you're under the Department of Labor. Okay, thanks.
That's
And
why.
Senator, you referenced this, but the only state investment that's made into the apprenticeship programs is through the 260F program. That's
The
$4
one
million.
that you're just-
Yeah, the appropriation of $1 million of that is directed towards the state's apprenticeship. The
Good.
balance goes into the cover worker training programs.
But there's so much more. I read an article that Iowa spends more in job training than California. Did you see that in Des Moines Register? Yes, yes. It was a while back. Actually, David Volt wrote that, and Iowa spends more in job training than the state of California. We are the highest in the nation, which made me gasp, because I thought, well, geez, we should be tripping over skilled workers and people who are trained. So if we're paying that money in job training, I personally believe there's a lot of job training dollars out there that could go to employers who actually do the job. Remember, jobs that train is what our new motto, instead of best kept secret, which we absolutely hate that motto. So any other questions? Okay, now I have a question. Did anybody learn anything new about registered apprenticeship?
Yes.
Yeah? Good. Because next year I got to top this one. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate your attention.
Thank you. And it's a shame that we don't have any enthusiasm from our leader for apprenticeships. Thank you, Lori.